Okay, 1 2 1 2. Welcome everyone to Black Comics Chat.
Says we're
Y'all
off air.
should know me.
Oh, there we go.
I am the driver or the pilot of the Red Lion. I am Latin Negro Tony Anthony Otero, and we have a great guest tonight. But before we get to that guest, I want to introduce my co-host Marcus. Say what's up.
What is up? What's happening? Yo, it's nice to be in the passenger seat tonight.
Yes.
It's comfy over here.
Yeah, so yeah, for those who may not know, probably wondering what are we talking about. This is my first time sort of taking the wheel. So I'm excited, but I'm even more excited about our guest. I would like everybody welcome to Black Comics Chat, Hannibal Tabu.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello. Broadcasting live from Los Angeles.
Oh, awesome. You know what? It's funny because I think I've been trying to get you on a show for a while. I contacted you in January. I think it was January, and it feels like a long road from here. So again, welcome, and we're just gonna jump right into it and tell us your origin story. Like, how did you get into?
I was born by the river. No, I'm joking. I grew up in Memphis. I was born actually in Illinois, and I grew up in Memphis. And one thing that you need to, well, there's several things about Memphis that are very interesting, but it's for a kid my age, at that time, it was enormously boring. There was a lot. There was a lot of free time, and anybody with a lot of free time is either going to get into a lot of trouble or get very creative. And I got very creative after I got in trouble. So I found very early on, they found that they could keep me busy with comic books for a significant amount of time. And one of the earliest things I remember was when I picked up Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes during the Great Darkness saga. And Darkseid had, spoiler alert, had just taken control of the entire planetary populace of Daxam and moved them from a red sun to a yellow sun system, like in 2 panels. That would have been like 9 issues from a modern comic. But anyway, in 2 panels, he moved them from a red sun to a yellow sun, made them fly into the air, and turn their heat vision on their own planet to carve it into his head. That was one of the first things I remember from comics. I was like, this is some all new stuff.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, because I mean, I had seen Star Wars in the theater 40 times with my mother in '77. I'd already had an inclination in this direction, but when I saw that, I was like, oh, we are doing some completely different stuff here, and I need to get on board with what's happening here. So that was one of my earliest comics memories. I've always had a passion for stories and storytelling and the ability to tell stories that stick with you in the same way that, say, V for Vendetta does, or Black Panther, The Client does, or the Icon works from Dwayne McDuffie. That sort of stuff is, it's where I want to be, and it's the work that I want to be doing. So I'm out here doing my best to get it right,
Cool.
Awesome. So, who are some of your influences, and was there one particular piece of writing or art that inspired you to create early on?
Well, as I said, definitely I cannot lie. Like, George Lucas is not a major influence over my life. That his shadow does not loom very large over everything that I do. But in the same way, and in a more practical way, I would say Christopher Priest, who was the first Black editor in comics, who was one of the first Black writers in comics, who, when I interviewed him back in, I think it was 2000 or so, taught me that there's a difference between art for commerce sake and art for art's sake. And that those two things don't always go together. When they can, it can be amazing, but when they don't, you have to pay the bills nonetheless.
Right.
And his example of professionalism, of clarity, has always loomed very large in my life. I was very, very blessed before he passed to be able to spend time with Dwayne McDuffie, who gave me, oh, hello, my daughter's here much sooner than I thought. Oh, she's much earlier than I thought. Okay, anyway, so I will be driving for part of this, so don't be surprised. I'm not going to die. I'm very talented. But anyway, so Dwayne was a very large influence on my life. And he took me to lunch when he was over Warner Brothers Animation, and he said, you know, Hannibal, you got to stop writing all this black stuff. I'm like, didn't you make Milestone? I was like, didn't you make Milestone, dude? And he was like, yes, but I did that after a whole bunch of doing other stuff. These are the stories you want to tell, but they're not necessarily the stories this industry is interested in listening to. And I was like, yeah, I hear you, but you know, I got a day job, so I don't really care what they want to hear. I'm gonna tell the story I'm gonna do. And he thought I was crazy, but he definitely encouraged me in every way. So that was a very great moment for me. I also have worked very heavily in poetry for a lot of time. I have a degree in creative writing from USC, and I worked writing poetry. I have meetings and whatnot. And one of the reasons why I work in what's called speculative fiction and science fiction in particular is the words of an elder poet of mine named V. Khalid. She said to me, don't write what happened, write what you want to happen. And in that, I'm trying to, that's weird. I'm trying to, as Warren Ellis said, create a finer world. And that's one of my major ambitions in the work that I'm doing.
Okay.
Cool.
So it sounds like you might be going in and out a little bit. So although I did hear everything you just said, so you know, if we ask you to repeat
I'm gonna try
something.
to switch this over. Yeah.
Okay.
My phone. Again, the fun of rolling around. My phone. The Bluetooth was like, oh, you want to drive? Oh, I got you. I'm like, I ain't asked you for that phone.
Understood.
Let me see if I can figure out how to do that.
You know, on the
it was just a button. All right.
Okay. So on the subject of Dwayne McDuffie, is there one particular experience?
I was in the middle of that. I was in the middle of saying. So
go ahead.
You were asking if there was something, you know, if it was Douglas Adams or if it was. I don't really remember specifically having one work have me say I need to do this. Between what feels like there was just an endless amount of stories pushing the inside of my head, desperate to get out, and just the enormous amount of free time that I had as a kid, it just all kind of. I had to write. I had to do something. I had to create. I had to make things because that was the only way I was able to make any sense of the world that was around me. I like I said, I grew up in Memphis, and I grew up with my great aunt and uncle who showed me this thing when I was, I don't know, about 5 or 6 or so, about the assassination of Martin Luther King, because they knew that the school was going to talk about it for Black History Month, and they wanted to talk to me beforehand. And I watched this on TV, and I was like, okay, I get it. So they whacked the guy just for wanting people to be nice to each other? What the heck? So I've been trying to make sense of the world since, and stories are one of the best means in which I can do that. I do it in comics because, as I tell people, you don't make comics because you want to, you make comics because you have to. It's a calling, not a vocation. And I work very diligently at improving my craft and becoming better at it, and hopefully creating stories that, you know, can affect people and can stick with them.
Cool.
Wow.
I just had a quick question. So you know, you referenced that obviously you write in like many different respects. You know, you write speculative fiction, poetry, and you've obviously worked in journalism. What can you just I guess branching off of the origin story, can you kind of walk us through the journey of your writing career and how it's brought you to comics, you know, at this point?
Well, then that story actually starts with Eric Stevenson. Eric Stevenson, who's now the publisher at Image Comics, was a guy that I interviewed and helped hire at a .com called Next Planet Over back in 99 or 2000, something like that. I can't remember. All those years start to melt together.
Yeah.
And he talked to me about, because he'd seen my writing, he'd seen the reviews I'd done and so on and so forth. He's like, well, have you ever thought about writing comics? I was like, not really, no, because I had never seen a comic writer. So I was writing novels, and I was writing, because I'm like, I know what a novelist is, I know what a poet is, I know what a songwriter is, I know all those things. So I can do those things in my house by myself without anybody bothering me. Sure. And he suggested, Eric was very supportive of my early career. He suggested that I write comic book reviews so comic book fans get used to seeing my name. He introduced me to Jonah Weiland, who was the owner of Comic Book Resources at the time, and got me my start there, which is now that was 2003, so I guess that was, I don't know, 15 years ago. And ultimately, it was at Image where my first paid comic work came out after I won the Top Cow Talent Hunt. In 2012, I entered the Top Cow Talent Hunt because my wife and my eldest daughter were on an enrichment voyage for semester at sea. So it was just me and my youngest daughter, and she went to sleep really early. So with nobody else in the house, again, free time, I I crafted as best as I could the best entry I could think of to win of the 11,000 submissions. 3 were selected, and that was one of them. And
Wow.
that was my chance to break into comics. I'm enormously grateful to Matt Hawkins for reading all of those entries.
You said 11,000?
That's what he told me. He said there was
Wow.
11,000 entries that year, and they picked 3. 3 writers to ultimately, be paid a top cow page rate and to work with a professional artist. Because for me, they were supposed to pair up a winner of an artist with a winner for writing, but they ran out of artists for me. So they're like, all right, we're going to give this guy who works with us, Nelson Blake. And if you ever seen Nelson Blake II's work, he's remarkable.
Yeah.
And then as the process goes along, Nelson hit some snags in his life. They're like, would you rather stick with Nelson and be late, or because I'd already started publicizing the date, or would you rather us get you in somebody else? I'm like, I read once that Julius Schwartz said, if you got to choose between being on time and being good, be on time, because another book will come. So
right.
I've already publicized this date. We got to go on this date. Who do you got? They're like, well, we got this guy. I don't know if you know him, Michael Avon Whamming. He's written. He's done some stuff. Powers. I'm like, oh yeah,
wow.
We can put him on it.
Right.
Nothing. And Michael came on and saved the book at the tail end of it, and is still a great friend of mine to this day. He's wonderful people. And yeah, that was the big break, and I came in very big, and I'm enormously grateful to all the people who helped me along the way, not just Matt and Eric, but also Brandon Easton and Jeff Thorne, who peer reviewed my script to tell me if it sucked or not, and Vince Moore, who helped edit me, who wrote Total Recall for Dynamite, rather. There's so many people that helped me get to where I am, and I'm enormously grateful to them for pushing me in this direction.
Wow, yeah. So I mean, right out of the gate, I mean, not only did you basically survive a battle royale with thousands of potential writers, but you also had a lot of great writers along the way that were helping to steer you or steer you or guide you into this writing.
Yes, sir.
That's really cool. So, of all the just types of writing that you've done, what is it in particular? As you mentioned, I like that quote about comics being something you have to write. What is it about the medium of comics that speaks to you? Out of all the types of writing that you've done.
I believe that the intersection of possibility and creativity in comics is the greatest of many things. There's things you can get a greater emotional reaction from people with a movie or a TV show, and you can do a lot of things in prose that are just ridiculous.
How do you balance everything? Like,
yeah.
Well, I haven't slept since 1979.
I feel you.
So I don't know if I'd call it balance. Sometimes I spin the plates, sometimes the plates fall and break. But
that's real. That's real. Yeah.
Right.
I'm black. It's America. It's gonna happen. So, but yeah, I write these sorts of stories because when I think back to a lot of the really pivotal storytelling moments, I think back to in V for Vendetta, where he's rushing out his gate, and the guy who should stop him just opens the door and bows to him and lets him go. And he looks back, and the mask is already smiling for him. And those types of visual moments, I think of, like I said, that thing in Legion where Darkseid's head was a planet 10 minutes before, things like that. The budget to do that in a live action movie or even in animation, or the time to get them to that done in comics, you write it, you send it to a guy, he draws it, gets penciled, inked, colored, lettered, and it's out on the market from 4 months after you wrote it down. and you can't beat that. That's an intox.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um, Tell us.
Yeah, it means a lot to me.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's. I really do believe that we all have to have balance in life. I don't necessarily know how I handle a 9 to 5 and all the extracurricular activities that I do, and it's just
Heavy drinking,
sleeping
maybe?
is important. You know what? Sometimes that helps. Sometimes that helps. So let's get a little bit into the things that you do. So tell us about Menthu, the Anger of Angels.
Ooh, I love this book. Yes, sir. You want me to just talk about it?
Yeah, just talk about it.
Yeah, let the audience know what it's about. Like, I love the concept behind it.
All right, great. So the idea is that Menthu is an ancient Egyptian demigod. His father is the Egyptian god of war, Anhur. And his father fell in love with a mortal, and they had a kid, but then his father had to go back to Amenhotep, which is the Egyptian realm of spirit, to deal with basically family business. And his son largely had to grow up without him, but they're trying to reconnect. They're trying to rebuild their relationship. They're trying to get it right. In his mortal form, because he transforms into this demigod form, in his mortal form, he's a football player, and he plays here in Los Angeles. And, he's popular, but he also carries on as a hero, and he's able to get people thinking about ancient Egypt in a way that, they weren't before. In that this happens in Los Angeles, an actual angel sees this, and he don't like it. He don't like it at all.
Okay.
And he's real Old Testament, wrath of a jealous God sort of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't, he's an angel. He's supposed to be the good guy. He can't go out and just go whack a guy. But he made friends. He had friends from before the fall. So he calls one of his old friends from before the Lightbringer made the split between the angels, and asks for a favor. And they cut a deal. And this demon decides he's going to attack and take out Menthu in Los Angeles so it can once again be a city of angels. And that leads to property damage all over the city, knocking down hotels and smacking each other around on Griffith Park and smashing into expensive neighborhoods that I've always wanted to smash up but didn't get to in the riots because my friends wouldn't let me. So it's a 72-page book. We ran it as a webcomic first. So for a while, you could have gotten it for free online, but no more. And we would run a page a week, and then we took it all down, all except I think there's 8 or 9 pages up as a preview still at the website operative.net. And it's an action extravaganza that's got a lot of jokes. It's got a lot of there's a lot of banter and a lot of sniping. At one point, Menthu puts the people's elbow on the dude. There's a lot going on in the book, and it was a blast to write. I worked with Robert Roach, who was one of the first winners of the Glyph Awards. He teaches storyboarding at Otis College of Art and Design, and it's a fun book, but it's a book that grapples with serious issues, serious philosophical and ideological concepts as well. And I enjoy it quite a bit. I'm looking forward to. We've already plotted out our next Menthu book, but both of us are underwater with other deadlines and can't get to it right now.
I understand that. So moving on to you, another thing you were doing. Can you talk about Irrational Numbers and what that's about?
Irrational Numbers. Okay. Irrational Numbers is a miniseries for Wonderman Comics, and I will stop to say it's a fun story about Wonderman Comics. I was at WonderCon on a panel about independent publishing. Probably, I guess that was 3 years ago now. And the publisher, Nate Wonderman, who's he's from Belgium. Most of his family and most of his finances are from Belgium, and he sees me from the audience. And about a week after WonderCon 3 years ago, he emails me and says, "Hey, I have these books that I'd like you to work on. Are you interested?" And I said, "Is there money?" And he said, "Yeah, of course." I'm like, "Then I'm your guy. Let's talk." And he had essentially a sentence in his mind for 2 different miniseries. One was Romanian Vampire Saga. That's literally all he had. And then he had he wanted to do a comic book based upon this series of paintings by Thomas Hogarth. I think it's Thomas Hogarth, called A Rake's Progress from the 1800s, from the 18th century rather. And that's all he had. And I was like, I can take that. I can run with it. I can help you. And oh wait, no, he knew that he wanted Pythagoras to be the lead of the vampire one, which I was like, but he's Greek. Okay, don't worry, I got it. I'll work with it. And then I did a lot of research, and we worked together to develop the story. I came up with character write-ups, kind of like official handbook of the Marvel Universe style write-ups. I do that for everything that I do before I write anything. So I want to know a character's shoe size. I want to know their favorite song. I want to know what they did when they were a kid. All that stuff is important to me when I'm writing a character, so I can understand how they will react to things. And Irrational Numbers is basically the story of Pythagoras, who was this Greek mathematician who studied in ancient Egypt, but kind of dropped out. A lot of people ended up dropping out because it was a really hard program. It was 40 years long. And he was chasing this idea in his head of what he thought was a perfect mathematical concept. He was chasing this idea, and chasing it led him to buy this slave from Dacia, which is Romania, named Zalmoxis. And between the two of them, I don't want to say accidentally invented vampirism, but they did. And much shenanigans ensue. And by shenanigans, I mean literally millions and millions of people dying and horrible bloodshed all over the world for centuries afterwards. So it's another book that my favorite thing about it was I did a lot of research, because I've never been to Romania. I've never been to Serbia. I've never been to a lot of places where the book is set. But my co-creator, Giancarlo Catacuzzo, who's Italian, he has been to a lot of these places, and he's able to put a lot of authenticity into the art. He's somebody that Nate hired before I even got there. And he doesn't speak any English, though. So we'd be talking.
Wow.
I would send him an email. His daughter would read it in English, translate it into Italian to him. He would say what he wanted to say back. She would type that in English to me, and then I'd get the email. And that's how we collaborated. And we did fine. He was very happy with it. So,
yeah, I mean, looking at it, I mean, it definitely looks, it's apparent that this whatever challenges you guys have language wise have not impacted the work at all.
Well, in the final project, no. But there's a fun part. There's at one point where I think it's issue 3 or 4. I can't remember. I think it's probably issue 3, where I said that a character was glassy eyed, right? So I get the proof back, and the character's wearing glasses.
That's understandable. I can see
like,
that.
That's not what I meant, fam. But I see how you got there. I understand that. So we stumbled on a couple of those things, but we were ultimately able to communicate, and we were able to find a way to work together that was very productive. At the end of he sent me the nicest email at the end of the project and said, "I'd work with you again anytime." And that lets me know that I wasn't enough of a jerk for him to hate me. So I think that was a good thing.
That's always important. That's right. Don't be a jerk to your artists, folks.
That part.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, just in those 2 books alone, and you've written, obviously much more than that, but even in those 2 books, and just kind of, running down what they're about and what they entail, I think that it just those 2 examples really shed light on all the things that you bring to the table with writing. In Menthu, you've got this balance of action and humor, at the same time, and you're dealing with spirituality, deities of various cultures and everything. And then in Rational Numbers, you're dealing with history, and you're dealing going back to Pythagoras and everything. So I mean, there's an enormous breadth of like subject matter. So like, what is your approach to writing? Like, obviously I think every story tells a different tale, but like how do you approach it, and how do you decide like how much humor you're going to inject, or striking a balance, I guess?
Well, like I said, the first thing and the most important thing to me is character. That I can plot the tightest, best, most inventive sequence of events possible, but if you don't care about the characters, it doesn't matter. It's not going to connect with you. So I start with understanding the characters, and if I have a thorough enough understanding of the characters, then the humor or the tragedy or whatever will naturally come from who they are. I don't have to think very hard about it. So, for example, Menthu, he's a football player. He's reconnecting with his an NFL player, for the most part, doesn't have a lot to worry about. He's single. He's good looking. He lives in Los Angeles. He can do pretty much anything he wants. He has the kind of somebody pointed out to me that one of the reasons a lot of people don't understand what's happening with Jaden Smith or his sister Willow is that we've never seen free black kids. These are kids who grew up
Wow.
without worry. So we've
Wow.
never even seen that
Wow.
conceptually until, of
Yeah.
course, we got Black Panther. But
Right. Right.
so yeah, he has a freedom that can create that kind of levity. So when he gets into a fight, yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's he's been slamming his body into people most of his life. That's not an unusual or even strange concept to it. It's just and in a ridiculous costume. So whereas with Pythagoras, you know, the tragedy of seeing his wife die, seeing his children die, seeing his friends die, seeing his school die, seeing everything he loves pass away, and seeing that the fruit of his labors was just murder and bloodshed all over the world, and that creates a very different tone. Um, so understanding the characters is the most important thing to me. That's why, and a lot of my collaborators, when they get them, they're like, "I can't believe you sent me this thing," because I'll write like 4,000 word character write ups about people, you know, stuff that's never ever going to get in the book. It's like an iceberg. It's so much stuff under the surface that never gets in the book. But if you read these things and then you read the book, you're like, oh, that's why this makes sense now.
Yep.
And then this happened, you know, so it's very, it makes sense with the characters. And I try to include as much of it as I can in the book so it doesn't seem like stuff comes out of the blue. But yeah, understanding characters is the most important part of my process. After that is outlining, because I'm a father of two, and I work a full-time job, like Tony was saying, and you know I have a lot going on. So if I don't have an outline, by the time I come back to something, I'll be like, "What was I doing? Where am I? What am I writing here? What?"
Right. Right.
The outline is a map, and it teaches me which way to go. So in the same way, when you program an address into Waze, I know, oh,
Yeah.
this is the turn I'm supposed to take. Got it, on it,
Yeah.
and I'm able to come back to it very easily.
Cool.
Wow. Wow. I was going to ask you about what your writing process is, but clearly you were able to explain that. And
Huzzah!
you know, character heavy comics are so good. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just saying, I'm glad I was able to help.
Oh, okay, good. Actually, you know, one of the questions that I had, you and I we're in a Facebook group called CNOC.
Yes, sir.
So one of the things that
get you some.
Yeah, one of the things that I've always seen you post is things for the buy pile.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, how did you get into that? Like, how does that work, and how many comics do you read? And again, I want to stress for the folks here.
Okay,
if you don't know about the buy pile, I suggest that you get on it. You review comic books and you come up with some pretty interesting takes. And I just want to know, amongst your writing, how many comics do you read? And wow, you know, how did you get into the buy pile?
Okay, all right. So what had happened was, again, getting back into the Wayback Machine, I was at Next Planet Over, and Eric Stevenson was the editor, and he was looking for content to drive people to the site so they would buy comic books. And one of the things he wanted to do was put in reviews. And he came to me and he says, Hannibal, I know you've written reviews for other places. You've worked at The Source, you've worked at Rap Pages, you've worked at Black Enterprise. So what do you think about writing some reviews for me? I was like, I'm already getting paid to do HTML code and make web pages. Why would I do something for free? And that was when he came up with it's a good idea to, you know, get people to know your name and thing. I was like, all right, whatever. So we started writing reviews. And then when Next Planet Over inevitably went out of business, .coms, then Eric started up a site of his own called spinnerack.com, where he was going to keep publishing reviews. He was going to do comics journalism. And he's like, you should come with me. I was like, sure, whatever. And then, you know, that went down, of course, as well. But I just liked reviewing comics. So I kept doing it. My shop was the shop that I went to, Comics Inc. in Culver City, which is now the Comic Bug, didn't mind me doing it because there was like, it was a good atmosphere there. And I started posting my reviews on Usenet. This is how old I am. I was on news groups. Kids today are like, what's a news group? What's happening here? That's how we used to pirate software, kids. But anyway, not me. Don't pirate software, kids. That's illegal. But so I was on Usenet, and I would post my reviews every week. And a guy came to me and emailed me out of the blue and said, hey, I noticed your review. Would you be interested in working for a website? I'm like, okay, does it have money? He's like, of course. I'm like, that's all you have to say to me. Come on, let's go. And it was a site called Underground Online. And I started working there with this editor named Brian Jacks, who I'm still very good friends with, great people. He left UGO to go to work at MTV. And when he did, a new editor came in that I didn't get along with so well. And I was kind of like miserable about it. And I'd been doing a column called the Comic Reel at Comic Book Resources, which talked about TV shows and movies and whatever that were developed from comics. I'd been doing that since 2003. And Jonah, the owner, says, I was talking about how miserable I was with the new editor or whatever. He's like, well, what if you brought the BiPal over to CBR? I'm like, well, that would pay, right? He's like, Hannibal. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, how much? And he slid a number across the table to me, and I opened it up, and it was twice what I was making at UGO. I'm like, I guess I could take this. All right, let's do that. So in 2006, I moved the BiPal over to Comic Book Resources, and it's been there ever since, and it's unlikely to go anywhere anytime soon. For most of that time, I would read between, I don't know, 40 and 80 books a week.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Crazy. And I would write as much as I could about most of them. Standing in a comic book store, I would write a lot of notes to myself, little shorthands so that I would remember what was happening in the book, and I would come home and write the whole thing up and post it to the site. This week, actually, because this is the start of year 13 of doing it just at Comic Book Resources, I decided I need to make a change because my wife is like, you can't come to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning anymore. This is stupid. You've got to stop this. Right. So from now on, I'm only going to do, starting this week, between 7 and 13 reviews a week.
Only 7 and 13.
Yeah, you know, I'm 45 now. I need to calm down. So I'm going to be doing it that way. And I may throw in one or two extras. I may tweet out a little short word or two about something else, because sometimes when I'm reading something, I'll stop and I'll take a picture of it with my phone or my iPad, and I'll post that panel if I think it's interesting. But I don't know. That's how it's developed, and that's where it's going right now, because again, I'm slowing down in my old age, and I have to admit that. And I have to also focus on these newer stories that I'm writing that hopefully people remember longer than they remember a review.
So within the BiPile, are you reading just the big three? Are you big two? Sorry, the big two. Are you? I'm assuming you also do Image, but what about other companies such as, let's say, Lion Forge, Valiant, and maybe independent?
My goal used to be to read as much as I could all across the spectrum. With the new BiPile, I understand that Comic Book Resources is a business, so they have to drive traffic. So if I wanted to do 13 black books a week, I would be out of business very quickly. I have to cover the big two, even though honestly I have not seen a crossover I've liked. I don't know. I can't even remember since when.
Preach.
Please stop doing crossovers. But anyway, yeah, we will.
Yeah.
So, but you know, for example, I remember there was a book called Super by a small company called Unlikely Hero Studios, and it's really good. It's super good if you ever get a chance to read it. But and it was this little indie book, and they approached me like, "Hey, would you review our comic book?" I'm like, "Sure, whatever." And I opened it up, and it's freaking amazing. I mean, it's like it's funny, and the art is super high quality. And I'm looking at it like, okay, first of all, this is really good, and second of all, these guys are white. Why are they not a bigger success? What's happening here? So I reviewed the book super positively, and then I forgot about it, you know, because, you know, whatever, I got other books to read. And I ran into them at Comic-Con in San Diego, and I was standing there talking to him for like 5 minutes before one of them read my badge. He's like, "Wait, are you Hannibal Tabu?" I'm like, "Yes." And they all got up from around the table, and like 3 people hugging me at the same time. I was like, this isn't awkward at all. So, and they said, there's nobody else in comics that would cover us. There's no other site that would pay any attention to anybody independent. And that's a reaction I've heard when I talked about Paradox Girl. That's a reaction I've heard when I've reviewed Lion Forge stuff. That's a reaction I've heard when I've done, you know, I mean, I'm not here to discriminate against comics. I'm looking for the best possible stories that I can read for my own entertainment and hopefully for the entertainment of others. So, no, I don't just do big two stuff. I have to do some big two stuff. And sometimes I won't lie, like it's not a chore. But then, you know, there's big two stuff I enjoy. I love Squirrel Girl. Christopher Priest is doing an amazing job on Deathstroke. So, you know, there's big two stuff I'm able to latch on to. But yeah, overall, I would really like to see fewer Nazis and fewer crossovers. And that's hard. That's really
Yes.
hard to do at this day and age.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Which makes me ask this next question because I'm very curious about your take on the Doomsday Clock.
Oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good.
Okay. All right. First of all,
He took a deep breath.
first of all, Alan Moore is going to not only curse entire bloodlines of people,
Oh yeah,
but
I was just
bloodlines
talking.
of people that they met,
Mm-hmm,
bloodlines of
mm-hmm.
people that live on the same street with them.
Oh yeah.
Because it was a simple deal. As soon as enough interest waned in Watchmen, everything was supposed to revert back to him. He was supposed to go on and do whatever he wanted with it, and it was a handshake deal. It was a deal based on honor, and they
Oh.
screwed him. They screwed him badly, and they continue to screw him today without any regard to the fact that he's a magician and he's crazy. So, it's a choice. It's not a choice. It's not a business choice I would make.
Right.
I try not to infuriate any more warlocks than I absolutely have to. But from the most basic stance, Doomsday Clock is derivative. One of my mentors, Jeff Thorne, says all the time, make new things. And
Mm-hmm,
if I'm strip mining the past to live in Prequilandia, to come up with and that's Thaddeus Howes came up with that term. I got to give credit where credit's due.
mm-hmm.
Then I'm not making new things. I'm just trying to service trade. I'm not willing to put out my best or my newest or my most creative ideas in a work for hire that I know goes to a corporate megalith. And from a business standpoint, I understand that. But even because I don't own anything in Irrational Numbers, I don't own anything in Scoundrel. That doesn't mean that I did not work my entire skinny black butt off to try to make those the best possible books, the newest possible books, the freshest possible concepts that I could develop. Because before I was writing comics, before I was even doing journalism, I was a hip hop dude. And the first thing you got to do is fresh.
Yep.
First thing you got to do is be fresh. So I was like, nah, fam, no, this ain't gonna be just no knockoff or something else. We got to do some all new crazy stuff here. Or like when this another example of it. I did this book for Philip Buchanan, this football player, where he wanted to do Entourage, but everybody's rich, not just one guy's rich. And I said, fine, whatever. So this Floyd Mayweather-esque boxer gets paint thrown on him at a party because he had been seeing the video with dogfighting. So how he reacts to this is he pulls out a jetpack and flies off from the Staples Center. And everybody's like, hold up. First of all, he had a jetpack. Second, it was just lying around. He was just ready. What's happening here? So I turned this in. The football player's like, Phil's like, I don't believe it. And I sent him a link to where he could buy a jetpack for $15,000. And he said, first of all, my business manager is very upset at the fact that I just bought a jetpack. And second, where do you come up with this stuff? I'm like, I got to come up with something fresh. I got to. And I feel like the corporate megaliths are not driven to do that. They're driven to satisfy, especially because when I worked at AOL, I saw this. They're driven to satisfy a bottom line. And especially in publishing, to not screw up the licensing trademarks, not screw up the things that merchandising expects, not to screw up the things that are expected from the cinematic departments, and to fly under the radar. And you can't do that making new things. And I'm not here for it. So if Alan Moore needs, for me to pluck some hair to put in his spell, or if I can get an Iron Newt down at the swap meet, I will do it for him because I understand.
Oh man,
Wow.
You kind of broke Tony in my heart because I was skeptical for similar reasons, but when I actually read it, I was like, oh, this is surprisingly good. I mean, that being said, everything you said was true. I mean,
absolutely.
Right.
I mean, you can recreate stuff and it still be good. It still doesn't erase the fact that they're screwing the main man here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
yeah, because on that point, I don't want to act like I mean, the Watchmen characters are Captain Ursat's versions of Charlton characters.
Right.
I get that. The Night Owl is Blue Beetle and so on. So, but instead of him saying, "I'm going to make a Blue Beetle book," or I'm gonna make the green beetle, or I'm gonna make the red. He's like, no, I'm gonna completely recast this character into a completely different iconography, a completely different approach, and a completely different character. I'm going to make something new from something old. Didn't Rhyme Fest say that? It's like some old stuff and make it new to me.
Right. Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Cool. I actually, if I could segue, just speaking of Rhyme Fest, I know in your journalism career you wrote for, I'm sure I read some of your articles back in the day in Source, Vibe.
Yeah, I'm sure I did too.
Yeah, Rap Page. You had Rap Pages too, right?
I was an editor at Rap Pages.
Okay, cool. And any cool hip hop stories you want to?
Yes, please. I need to hear some. Yes.
Okay, I'll tell my favorite Rap Pages. Okay. Okay, I have to. Okay, I'm not going to use the names because apparently I'm supposed to not name names. But
this is gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Okay.
I was working there, and there was an editor who I believe had some questionable practices that were happening. I'm trying to not tell the story the wrong way. Anyway, so the cover of the magazine had been promised to Master P because at the time he was brand new. This is right when Make Him Say was about to hit, and they had offered Master P the cover. He flew everybody from No Limit from out to Los Angeles on his own dime. Paid for the photo shoot, paid for everything. And he just kept saying, I'm so grateful that y'all are opening up to a Southern artist. I appreciate y'all. I don't want you to have any problem. I want to make this as easy as possible for you. And he paid for everything, right? Then, right before the cover was supposed to go to press, the editor tells the managing editor at the time, who was had replaced me through some drama that I don't even want to get into. But anyway, it was a good person, so I'm not going to get into that. But told the managing editor, I'm yanking the cover from P and putting Biggie on it. And the managing editor said, Biggie was on the cover 4 months ago. Why are we putting Biggie on the cover again? And the the editor said, this is what's happening, yada, yada, yada. People who know me and people who know Rap Pages there have figured out who I'm talking about already, but I can't fix that. I'm not saying names, so it's not my fault.
Right.
So the managing editor had to go tell Master P this because a phone call, that's cowardly, right? But the managing editor presumed they were going to die because,
Of course.
So they get to the hotel and they tell this to Master P, and Master P says, you know what? You came to talk to me like a man. I respect that. I ain't mad at you. We good. Okay. But I'm not. This isn't cool. I'm not. But we good. So the managing editor says, so I can leave? And P's like, yeah. So they leave. Don't think anything more of it. 24 hours passes. That was a Thursday. 24 hours passes. Friday morning, Master P drives up and parks because the old offices of Rap Pages were by La Cienega and Wilshire in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills technically. And he pulls up and parks on the street because there was permit parking at the time. This is, again, I'm so dating myself in Los Angeles. He gets out of the car and goes into the building and goes to the first security guard he found. Says, hello, could you tell me where the Rap Pages offices are? The security guard, who sees lots of black people come through, lots of people with baseball hats, lots of hip-hop people, says, sure, whatever, it's on the 3rd floor. Thank you, sir. Gets in the elevator. Super polite. So polite, right? Gets in the elevator, goes up gets off on the 3rd floor, walks into the offices, walks past the assistant editor's office, who notices him but doesn't say anything. Walks past the copy editor's office, who notices him but thinks, oh, that's weird. Walks past the managing editor's office, who also notices him but decides not to say anything. Walks past all of them right into the editor's office, closes the door, and walks over to the desk and leans over and says, I will effing kill you. Do you have any idea what you're doing? I will end you. I'll make your kids an orphan. What is wrong with you? And has this real heated conversation for like about 5 minutes. And then storms out, takes the elevator, goes downstairs, sees the same security guard, says, have a nice day. Walks out. I'm not making this up. Walks back to his car and drives away, right?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Wow.
I show up about 3 hours later because it was Friday and I was coming to get my check. I brought my homeboy with me, who was also ironically from New Orleans. And we get there, and there's 20 security guards in the bottom of the thing, and everybody's rushing around and panicking. They got the little earpieces like Secret Service, and they're flipping out, right? But they know me, right? So they're like, whatever, Hannibal, we're busy, right? I'm like, this is weird. Oh well. So I get in the elevator. I go up to the payroll floor, which I think was 9 at the time. Get my check. Come back down to the 3rd floor to see if there's anything free I can get, because if you're a journalist, you want free stuff. That's one of the perks of the job. I go in the office. The copy editor rushes past me. Doesn't even say hi, which is weird. The assistant editor, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Can't talk to you right now, Hannibal. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I guess. The managing editor was out of the office at that point. And then I go to look in at the editor, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Hannibal, I can't with you right now. It just storms out, right? And I'm like, this is weird. So I poke out a little, and one of the editors, I think it was the copy editor, came back and told me the story of what had happened earlier, right? And then has to go back and talk to security and blah. There's all this drama, right? So I'm standing there in the editor's office, and I look over on the couch, and there's a box. And I open up the box, and it's got a whole bunch of free clothes from one of the advertisers, Menace, right? So I look at my homeboy, and he looks at me, and we pick up the box, and we walk out of the building. And we don't think anything of it, because you know what? Whatever, screw them. What are they going to do? About a week later, I'm at a concert for, I think it was Common. Common was performing on Sunset. And Grace Heck, the publicist from Relativity, is like, I can't believe what happened to Rap Pages. I'm like, what? And she's like, that Master P would go up in there and threaten the editor that way and then steal a whole bunch of clothes from Menace?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Wait. At the time, I was wearing one of the shirts. I'm like, for real? That is crazy. Wow. I can't imagine nothing like that happening. Oh, well. And for months and months and months, people kept telling me that they couldn't believe Master P had invaded the Rap Pages offices, threatened this editor, and stole a bunch of shirts. And they were really good shirts. I still have one of them. They're really, really good shirts. And yeah, so that's my favorite story from that era. It's by far, it's not even the craziest, but yeah, that's one of my favorite stories from that era. So.
All right, cool. So when he walked up in the office, would it be fair to say that he made him say I'm sorry, I had to do that.
I believe I would have to respond to that. Nah.
Right. Thank you for humoring me. Thank you. You're a consummate professional, sir.
Oh my God! Wow, that was.
We're making BlackComicsChat history, baby.
That's right. We certainly are.
Yeah, man. Blame it on the dad jokes.
I love him. I love that. That's why I love M'Baku. M'Baku laughs at his own jokes.
M'Baku, yeah, exactly.
Are you done? Are you done?
Yeah. Are you done?
I think that's why I connected with him so much.
Oh
yes, sir.
So, just sort of getting back on topic, can you talk a little bit about the Operative Network?
Oh, sure. The Operative Network, I got this idea when I read about Jeff Johns and Jeff Loeb and Max Allen Heinberg, who have this thing called the Mystic something Treehouse. It's what they call their creative studio. So the three of them go to an office building and sit in the office together. And so if Jeff Johns says, hey, I need somebody to copy edit this. Jeff, could you do this? Jeff Loeb picks it up and says, sure, whatever, I'll do it. And he checks it to make sure he hasn't spelled anything wrong. Or if the other guy goes, they work together to support each other's work. And the idea of that was super attractive to me because my mother was a Black Panther, and I believe very strongly, not a Wakandan Black Panther, but like an American Black Panther. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
I wish. But so the idea of organizing is, and how we can do better together than we can do individually is very important to me. So I ran into some like-minded individuals, and we decided to form a team, basically, to work together to support each other's work, to work collectively, to create, and to work collectively to help each other, get paid and get work. So it's me, it's this other brother from Memphis, who ironically I did not meet until I left Memphis, named Quinn McGowan. Damian Gonzalez, who is an animation guy from Brooklyn. He's from Trinidad originally, but he lives in Brooklyn. Robert Roach, who I talked about earlier with Menthu, who is a storyboard instructor, and Ray Anthony Height. Sorry, Ray. Who created Midnight Tiger and just did a couple issues of X-Men for Marvel and is doing Superb for Lionforge.
Right.
And Thaddeus Howes, who you've had on the show, who's probably the most talented writer I've ever seen. He's scary. He's brilliant. The six of us work together to try to support each other and to try to create new works. And like I said, make new things as best as we can. And as well, you know, we do works for hire. So if somebody comes to me and is like, hey, Hannibal, I need an artist for such and such, I'm like, I got a guy. I got you. And I refer to them. Likewise, work comes to me from things that they've run into. And all around, we help each other raise our financial and professional and creative status as best as we can collectively.
Wow. And how long has this been formed?
Okay, now I'm gonna have to think calendars because it's hard because I normally time things by what job I was working at, but I don't remember which job I was at when it started. It's got to okay. Now we've done 2 web comics already, so it's got to be at least 3 years. That would probably 4 years. It's got to be in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 years now. I probably should know that, but and my iPad probably knows it, but it's got to be in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 years. That's if you're on Twitter, Quinn, feel free to hop in BlackComicsChat and correct me because, of course, you know it's Friday and I just dropped off my kid and I'm crazy. So it's in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 years.
Okay, cool. And I mean, like just the names that you mentioned there. You know, you mentioned like past guests like Thaddeus Howes and Ray Anthony Height. I mean, that's some along obviously with yourself. That's some esteemed company to be in. So it's like you guys have a powerful network going on over there.
Well, as most Def said, this ain't no recreation. This is pro ball. We letting you know, y'all.
I'm not letting you know, y'all. Yep. Yeah, man. So and people can read your web comics there as well, right?
I call that the Too Short effect. While I don't support his misogyny, I respect his business acumen.
Right.
I'll give you the first little bit piece for free, but everything else you're gonna have to pay for. So yeah, we put out a web comic, a page a week, and then at the end, our goal is to be able to collect it at the end of the year into something to sell. We take it up to Black Comics Arts Festival in San Francisco, which is where we've been debuting things, and drop it as a limited edition print thing, sell it online digitally, and we're going to be doing print on demand, I believe, with both Peep Game and Drive Through, and maybe Amazon. The details elude me, but yeah, and that's our goal is to be able to put out work on a consistent basis. Because if they forget you for 5 minutes, nobody's gonna know who you are. You know, I remember Lin Wein talked to me when he was at EagleCon in Los Angeles about it's like how hard it was for him to get work. Dude created Wolverine.
Wow.
How's Lin Wein gonna have a hard time getting work?
That ain't right. That's crazy. That isn't
so,
no, not at all.
Rest in peace, Lin. So.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've gotten so much information out of you right now.
I know.
So right now, what's your favorite comic that you've read recently?
That I'm not writing?
That you're not writing. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's be clear with the
correct. And then we'll ask the same question of what you are writing.
So, okay. Yeah. My favorite comic that I'm not writing right now, that would have to be I'm gonna have to keep it real. Transformers Lost Light.
I knew you were going to say Transformers. I knew it.
Here's the thing. A lot of the Transformers books, some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are up, some of them are down. But this is the only book where he's taken this original concept and created something new. There's so many concepts that make sense and that make the characters vibrant in this book. For example, there's something called an Amica Endura, which is a best friend, and a Conjunx Endura, which is a soulmate, a life mate. And the idea that these ideas did not exist in comics before James Roberts. And the fact that when somebody, their life mate is endangered, when they find them after a long time, the stories that can come out of this are so much deeper than Megatron trying to take over the world again.
Right.
And I mean, it's so deep what he does with these characters and how he'll weave storylines years and years and years down the road. It's like, remember that thing I did in this issue and the thing I did 20 issues later and then the thing I did 5 issues at that, and here's what that all pays off. And the patience that he has as a writer, because I'm like, I want to do it right now, I want to do all the stuff right now. The patience he shows as a writer is so scary. And to make it out of 30 and 40 foot giant tall robots, who does that? So it's every time I read, I'm like, I can't believe this is a thing. I can't believe this is an actual thing in real life.
Wow. Okay. So, what's your favorite comic that you are writing?
My answer to that is always the next one,
Oh,
because
nice, nice.
I tell this to my kids always. I'm like, look forward, not back.
Mm.
Um, I'm very proud of the books that I've written. I'm very proud of the collaborators I've worked with. I'm very proud of the work that I've done. But I don't live in the past. I don't even live in the present. I live in the future, and I
Mm.
desperately want to take you all there with me. So,
Wow,
Definitely. Cool.
wow.
What can you tell us? I know you've obviously got things you can't speak about, but what can you tell us about what to look out for from you?
okay, um, okay. Why not do this here? No better place. I and I don't believe I've said this publicly before, but I'll do it now. I'm the new ongoing writer for a science fiction series called Time Core from Wonderman Comics, where um, people are snatched from the moment of their death to help stop anachronisms from infecting the timeline. So, and if they do enough good or enough bad, depending on how their personal life is, they can change their disposition, because at the time of their death, they were, on the needle. Based on whatever their belief system is and whatever their spirituality is, they were either on the good side. They haven't done enough good to go on the good side, haven't done enough bad to go on the bad side, and they can affect that by working in the time core. Um, Unfortunately, the time core is run by a wildly bureaucratic, enormously labyrinthine organization where even the people in it kind of hate each other. So
Mm.
there's office politics and there's time travel and there's all kind of crazy stuff. And I'm not gonna spoil the story, but in the very first big story that I take on, I have a huge march of Zulu warriors stomp down Venice Beach. That's like the first thing I do.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I know, right? Like 10,000 Zulu warriors storming down Venice Beach.
Wow.
Just because I can. Because
Just
again,
again.
I don't have a budget. I don't have people telling me I can't do things.
That's just so wow.
So yeah, Time Core is the next, and I just okay. So, well, now that I've announced it, I've already turned in the scripts for 11 and 12, and the script for 13 is due next week, next Friday, I think. Yeah. And I'm having a blast, as you see, because anytime I can combine my love for history and my understanding of things with creating new things. Like, okay. One more spoiler. One one character is from the year 3114. So,
Okay.
as a futurist, I have to envision what the world of 3114 is like. I have to
Mm-hmm.
see how technology will have developed, how linguistics would have developed, how society will have developed, and I get to create all that whole cloth with nobody to tell me no, and
Mm.
that's intoxicating. It's so much fun. So, Time Core is going to be coming back from Wonderman Comics. I take over in the last 6 pages of issue 11, and then I'm pretty much kicking it until I get fired or I do something too crazy to stop. Uh, so that's
Sounds
coming.
good. Sounds fair.
I'm very excited about that. I'm still doing every week Project Wildfire Street Justice, which is a free webcomic. That's free, kids, on operative.net. That's operative.net. No funny spelling. And that's okay. So Wildfire is like he's just a guy. He was a college student studying architecture in Memphis. Oh, I'm sorry, not Memphis. In that book, it's Shelby City, uh, but it's basically
Right.
Memphis.
Okay.
And he was broke. So when he saw a flyer like sign up for an experiment, get some money, he was like, I'll get some money. And they injected him with something, and they injected a lot of people with something, and most of those people died. But he didn't die. He got superpowers just in time to help fight a wave of monsters, giant monsters breaking out all over the city and ultimately all over the world. So he's this unlikely superhuman who gets these powers and is just trying to do the right thing. He's a street dude, he's a southern dude, but he's trying to get his life together and he's trying to be right for people. And in this book, there's a vigilante who also has powers who thinks he's not doing enough. She's like, how many kids got killed by cops while you were flying around trying to be a distraction? He's like, I'm saving lives. He's like, are you saving enough?
Wow.
So yeah, so there's that. And on top of that, there's another giant monster who is a brand new kind of kaiju, a brand new kind of creature who he's not prepared to deal with at all. So and it's a female. So he's got lady problems on every aspect of his world. So that's an interesting thing to do, and I enjoyed it a lot. Sorry, my camera dropped out for a second. But yeah, Project Wildfire Street Justice is every week, every Wednesday, Wildfire Wednesday. And Time Core is coming out. I have no idea. I don't even remember. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can talk about that I'm doing right now. There's those two. I can't do that one. Let me look at my list. Let me look at my list because I have all this stuff. I use this app called Scrivener, which is the best because it syncs up all your writing with Dropbox, and no, definitely can't talk about that because the NDA will get me in so much trouble.
Right.
I'm working on a web series with. I probably shouldn't say that. Okay, she wouldn't want that. Okay, I'm not gonna say her name. Oh yeah. Okay, I can talk about these two. Sorry, stupid button went back. I'm working on a different web series with Damien Poitier, who is I'm sorry, comic book with Damien Poitier, who played Thanos in the first Avengers movie, and he also was in Captain America: Civil War. He's a super cool dude. We're working on a science fiction series together, and I think he told me he wants to get. I shouldn't say that. I'm gonna get in trouble. Okay, so that's the third thing we're doing, and then I'm gonna stop there because I got a feeling like my text messages are gonna start blowing up if I keep talking. So
okay, we don't want to get you in trouble.
That's cool. That's cool.
That's what I can talk about.
Okay. So this is an interesting question. I like this question. In all fiction, which villain do you identify with the most? As he makes an evil laugh.
Black Adam, absolutely. Because
oh yes, I love Black Adam.
Black Adam was empowered by God. Literally could be said to be walking a divine path. So the idea that he would not have any question about what he thought was right is very easy.
Right.
But after following the little rules and being the wizard's little hero for whatever, when he decided to go his own way, they threw him across the universe. And he spent 3,000 years flying back to Earth to get back. And, I mean, again, for a black person, you went to work, you did your job, and then they tried to throw you away.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. And just the power and the iconography, and just, I mean, if I know I'm never going to get hired by Marvel or DC from that. I've got a really strong feeling of that. I've been told that by people at Marvel, at least. So I've got a very strong feeling it's never. But if I did, I've got a Shazam story that would, oh my God. So my goal is to kind of Captain Ersatz it and change the characters into something else and hopefully work it into my own stuff one day because, the things I would do. So yeah, Black Adam I identify with more than probably anybody else. That's like the first thing that pops into my mind.
Wow, I have always loved Black Adam. I've always loved that. Without getting into as deep as you did, I love the fact that he just seems to operate by his own rules, as you said, and he could be a good guy one day and not. I think there was this is my personal opinion. A few years ago, I think one of the best DC books going was the Justice Society of America, and he was a part of that, and he was right, and he would flip back and forth between whether he's going to be a good guy and a bad guy. I just absolutely loved it, and of course DC messed it up, but yeah. So yeah. I've always enjoyed that. So along the same lines, what hero, again in all of fiction, do you identify with?
That's harder because I've been called the bad guy most of my life. What hero do I identify with?
Could be a conflicted hero.
Could be.
Well, it would almost have to be if it's going to be me. Okay, I'm going to make an unconventional choice here. I'm going to say Stalker from G.I. Joe.
Really?
I remember when I was younger, when I was reading G.I. Joe comics, and I'm always very grateful to Larry Hama, not just for being super cool, but for writing those books that were so diverse and so open. That he was not just an equal on this team of super elite people, but he was a leader. He was one of the most popular, best regarded of that team. And that Stalker he could do almost anything that anybody else could do. He would, he was almost as tough as Snake Eyes. He was, and he was always right there in the thick of it. And but he never gave up who he really was. He never gave up the street dude that he was. He never, compromised his own, even unless he was going undercover and he had to be all proper and, throwing a suit or whatever, which happened in some issues, and he was super dope doing that. So, yeah, I guess I would have to say Stalker, because I've been thrust into leadership positions when I did not want it. I've, been the only black guy in the room many times, which is what it takes to be in the room where it happens, as Aaron Burr sang in Hamilton. So, yeah, I would have to say probably Stalker. Yeah.
Wow, yo, that took me back, and actually, now you're gonna make me want to, go look up to see if there's any collected volumes of Larry Hama's G.I. Joe, because those were some of the first. Oh, there are.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna have to go cop some. Those are some of the first comics that really, in my origin story, that I really jumped on when I was a kid. That was good stuff. Cool.
Wow, and what I appreciate about this entire conversation is we were able to talk about the Transformers and G.I. Joe in the same podcast, and that's what I grew up with. Transformers and
I ain't
G.I.
even
Joe.
got into Star Wars yet. I ain't even dug deep on Star Wars.
Oh, not yet.
We could do it. We could do it.
All right.
Yeah, the Hasbro Empire, though.
Man.
Of the 80s.
Oh. So before we
visionaries on you.
Before we get to the next segment of our show, in which we talk about just about everything, is there any other works that you are willing to talk about, or we want to just go right through what's happening now?
Oh, Spirit, I'm happy. There's so much of my work that I'm happy to talk about. Okay. Then what I will say here is one of the things I don't get to talk about often enough are some of the novels that I've done.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
I created my own. I created my own kind of fictional playbox or sandbox to live in, and I've written 2 novels in it. One is The Crown Ascension, which is boy meets girl, boy and girl fall in love. Girl turns out to be 8,500 years old. Much hilarity ensues.
Okay.
And then the second novel is Far Away, which is the only problem with the world's most advanced prison is a man who spends his entire life trying to get in. So those 2, and there's science fiction books in them I'm really excited about. And I hope to put out the 3rd book this year, which is called Rogue Nation, which is the main character. I describe him as a mix between Dr. Doom, the Kingpin, and Idi Amin. And I have so much fun. I mean, if I'd already put him into print, he'd be one of the villains I really identify with, because he's so much fun to write. And my favorite scene in the book is he has a product release party, because he's a boss, and he rents out a stadium in Tokyo for an all-white party. Right? There's 15,000. I'm sorry, there's 20,000 guests. Everybody's wearing white. He comes in all black.
That's hysterical.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that's hysterical. I love that.
Yeah, I hope to get Rogue Nation out by the end of the year. I've got the manuscript is done. I've got 2 editors worth of notes. I just have to actually slow down and deal with them when I'm not being paid to do other things.
That's what's up.
Man, you really do not sleep. I mean, I thought I don't sleep, but there's no way that you are sleeping.
Time to rest when you're dead.
That's true. It's true. Now, for your books, do you self-publish them, or do you have a publisher?
The Operative Network stuff is currently self-published. Each artist individually had their own shingle already going. Quinn had Legends Press. Robert had Hometown Inc., and they have been publishing that stuff through their stuff individually. The web stuff we do on the web, webs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then I also work with a number of publishers as well. As I said, I'm working with Wonder Woman Comics now. I'm really excited about that relationship. And I am, who else can't talk about that one. I'm working with some publishers as well. I'm literally not going to get sued off of this NDA tonight, but my brain.
Awesome.
The problem is I've been working on this project literally half the day, so it's right in the front of my head. So my brain's like, but I'm like, no brain, no, stop.
If anything slips, I can edit it later.
That's
Okay.
true.
I'm normally very well controlled, so
Good.
I'm gonna behave.
Cool.
But in terms of your novels, are they
Mhm.
self-published or?
Yes, sir. Those were the first novel, ironically, was a small boutique publisher called Telepoetics, which had only done poetry beforehand, run by the sister Marilyn Murphy. Uh, Came to me and wanted to publish the book, and I was like, sure, great, whatever, and put out a gorgeous edition. We sold lots of books, had a good time. Marilyn passed away; her company passed away with her, and then I took the book back and re-self-published it with a different cover that my wife designed. My wife, Michelle Tabu, is an amazing designer as well as mother and all-around wonderful human being. Um, and then also then I put out Far Away right after it independently. So those are self-published essentially by myself, and those are available on Amazon and is Barnes and Noble still around? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, that
I
Borders
hope
is
so.
not, but Barnes and Noble is.
All right. Well, it's there. It's available if you go looking for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So we're going to move on to our next portion in which we talk about just about everything and anything.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about this Black Panther and Friends, aka Infinity War trailer. That just
Looking
dropped
forward to Black
today.
Panther and Friends.
Yeah.
my favorite tweet was when somebody white posted, "Who are all these people in the door of Malahi movie?"
That's hysterical.
That's good stuff.
Yes, I can't wait for this movie. This is by far the most anticipated movie for me. Yes, I love Black Panther. I was waiting for it, but I knew that this movie was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I lost you there. What's up?
There, Tom?
Oh, there.
I think a lot of people are going to bite it, and it's funny. I don't even know where to begin, but I do feel that.
I wonder what he feels.
Right.
Wait, we lost you for a minute. The last thing we heard was "I do feel."
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that, and what I find interesting is that Mark Ruffalo had talked about we can't really view the comic book as a reference to this movie.
True.
But when you look at the trailer, I think that there are some very, very big similarities for Infinity War, and I think one of those being obviously when you see Cap sort of fighting off Thanos' arm, and then the whole concept of Thanos trying to kill half the universe. So if you've read at least, I think it's the Infinity Gauntlet, that's a very, very close similarity. Unless he was actually talking about Infinity War, was a whole other thing.
Well, he also, I think, was talking about the fact that, we're not going to see the Silver Surfer run in and try to grab the gauntlet. Sorry, that deal's not done yet.
No, it's not. Player. No, it's not.
So there will, in terms of the fact that this battle is happening on Earth instead of in space, which is what happened in the Gauntlet. The differences in characters. There's no Reed. There's no Silver Surfer. There's no X-Men. There's a lot of things that will play differently than they did in the comics. Right. So that's from a practical standpoint why I think we would hear, don't look at the comics as a guide, but also. And this is what I really enjoy about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that that Kevin Feige and the team there, they came up with this plan in 2006, and we're still seeing the fruits of that plan.
Yep.
More than 10 years later, and that they're almost at the end. This is the penultimate chapter of that grandiose story, and I can't imagine that they brought us this far to hit us with the old okie doke, some stuff that we would see coming. So I would imagine there's got to be some kind of surprises. I was talking to I've been saying this a lot recently. I'm like, I would not lose. I would be willing to put some money that the Avengers are going to be based in and led by the Black Panther in Wakanda, because they're like, when you hang what we say before the show, when you hang $1 billion off over 27 days, come on, fam.
Oh yeah, $1 billion in 27 days. Definitely, you are leading the Avengers probably for the next decade.
Yep, that's
absolutely.
That would be brilliant too, because down the line they could really get into some of the things that Coates is dealing with, and other writers have dealt with too, with the Wakandans really, you know, resenting T'Challa's worldwide adventures.
Yeah.
I feel like there was something you wanted to say about.
Okay, I've been asked not to do this by multiple elders, and it's hard. It is hard, but I'm just gonna say there was no child slavery in Wakanda before Coates got there. There was no tribalism at this level before Coates got there. You know, these are not the behaviors of a non-colonized people. They're not. These are the behaviors of colonized, post-colonial Africans. And while I respect those challenges that we have to deal with, from Liberia to the Sudan to wherever else, you know, that's not something that Wakanda would do. It's just not, you know. And we've seen that through McGregor. We've seen that through Priest. We've seen that through Hudlin. We've seen that through Lee and Kirby. So all of a sudden, y'all gonna act colonized? I'm gonna have to be the skeptical African kid on that one, player. Sorry.
Well, maybe there'll be some sort of cosmic cube action, you know, to sort of rewrite that. You know how that works.
Don't play with my emotions, pal.
Awesome. So while we're at it, talking about movies, so my question to you is are you for T'Challa or are you for Killmonger? Let's have that real conversation.
Okay. All right, my daughter just texted me something real crazy. I can't say I'm for a guy who would shoot his own girlfriend in cold blood.
Yeah, pretty much.
I can't say I'm for someone who's willing to dump weapons in the streets of challenged communities that are already, you know, suffering. I can't say that I'm on the side of someone who was trained only to destroy. There's not much he can build. He doesn't have the training for it. He doesn't have the skills for it. Oh shoot, my daughter's so crazy. Hang on. So I can't say that, but even Chadwick Boseman has said in interviews, he said, you know, the Black Panther was the voice of privilege. He was the voice of complacency, and that's kind of a bad guy position. So at the end of the day, I'm a lot more M'Baku than anybody else. You know,
Nice.
I believe in tradition. I believe in you know, taking care of what's really important at home. I believe in not walking too quickly away from the way of things. But you know, there's a little bit of, I'm not gonna say Killmonger didn't make some good points. I'm not gonna say T'Challa didn't make some good points. But you know, if somebody come up with me, I'm gonna be like this. Who?
Oh, I've used that this week.
Oh my God.
As you should.
First of all, I want to say, Marcus, we need to ask this question of everyone else. That's a brilliant answer, by the way. Secondly, what makes me laugh is that I have people at work that now do that. When there's a certain population of people in our meeting, you know, they don't do it to them, but they'll look at me and they'll do that, and of course I just start laughing, because you know what I've come to figure is that with Black Panther.
That's weird. Sorry, I just got dropped off for a second, but my wife is outside texting me because she's having a hard time at the garage. All right, hang on a second. No, you're good. Keep talking. You're good.
Oh, I was gonna say with Black Panther being so popular, I feel like we have gained a certain amount of understanding, not only of each other, but there's a certain language that I now see that we have. You know what I mean? When we can walk into a meeting filled with people who are not of color, and you just, you know, there's these certain looks, there's these like, you know, I'm in Baku right now or whatever, and I appreciate that because it means to me that this film is more, hits more toward the culture than anything else, and the culture of people, and I appreciate that so much, and of course, very much part of the reason why it was $1 billion in 27 days. So.
No, absolutely. I think that I think you're absolutely right, and one of the things that they were able to do so well is, and this is what happens again. I mean, I know I've said it in the past, but this is what happens when you really let, you know, us tell our stories.
Right.
Is, you know, a lot of times in popular fiction, you will get like one side of blackness, and it might not even be a real side, or it might be somebody else's view of what it is, how things are, you know. But Black Panther was really, if you think about it, like from Nakia's point of view to T'Challa, to the way that Killmonger's views affected T'Challa and, you know, helped him to evolve to find his own, you know, path as a king and his own way to help the world, you know, and help his brothers and sisters. Like, there's just so many sides of blackness, you know, here and on the continent, that, like, you know, they were just able to do that extremely effectively. And it's what happens when you let us tell our stories.
I agree. Yes,
and
sir.
you might make $1 billion while you're doing it.
It's a nice perk.
Yep. And at the end of the day, lead the Avengers. So, speaking of which, so Black Panther, what are your, not Black Panther, excuse me, Black Lightning. What's your thoughts on that?
The first thing I always say about Black Lightning is a line that literally just I could not forget on that show. Shaquandalyn loved her daddy more than anything in the world. We have lived to see a day where Shaquandalyn is name checked on national television, was at home with her daddy. Don't forget that nuance, that he was there. You know, Black Lightning is so unapologetically about what it is. Are there challenges? Sure. Are there problematic elements? I'd like to have a white guy not pulling the strings. Sure, no doubt. But they're really doing a fantastic job at that show. And the fact, because at first I was worried, I was like, how come he don't know powers? And I shouldn't say anything because I was about to spoil something. Anyway, because I just forgot y'all ain't caught up. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, don't worry about me. I'm good.
Please watch this week's episode. Please watch.
I will.
But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of really great things happening on that show. I was able to meet one of the writers, Lamont McGee, who's a super cool dude. You can't shake him with anything. He was with Mark Burndon, who works for Entertainment Weekly and wrote Genius for Top Cow. He did this Black Nerd meetup for Black Panther, like the week that it came out.
I saw that.
Star Wars Cantina. It was hilarious. It was dope. And Lamont he's like, what's that old Outcast line? It's like cooler than Freddie Jackson in a snowstorm, sipping a milkshake in a snowstorm. That's Lamont. I love this dude. So, like, we're taking a picture, everybody's getting all hype. Lamont in the picture. What's up? So there's a lot of great things to like about the show in addition to him, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I am looking for the character to grow past his neighborhood boundaries.
Oh yeah.
But in the meantime, I'm really happy with what I'm seeing.
So what are your thoughts on I know they talk about there's not going to be a real crossover with the CW heroes, but what is your thought on that? I know it's going to happen.
There will be, yeah.
But I think it'll just be interesting, the type of issues he goes through and somebody like Oliver. I think that would be very interesting. I want to see it. But,
I can't remember who tweeted. Somebody said that he's going to look at Diggle like, really? You just driving him around? Really?
Yep.
That's what we're doing?
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be a lot of clowning from Black Lightning because he is he's I've started to even quote, it's like, where's the future? It's right here. You know, the kind of things that they incorporate into the things that he does as an educator and the things he does as his father is really great and will stand in sharp contrast to a lot of the shenanigans happening on a lot of the other shows.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? You know, while you were speaking about that, what I just thought of is, I mean, obviously, I think for many of us, our warm memories of the Cosby Show have been tainted. But I think that Black Lightning, in a weird way, is like what that was for us back then. You know what I mean? But with a superhero, you know, because it's like this Black family drama, and it's very now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and I don't know, they're able to deal with so much, and even just with his daughters, just with the two daughters. Between them, you know what I mean? There's so many things that they are able to touch on about the Black experience. So
we also do have Blackish. It's not like we can't. Like
yeah. No, definitely. I mean, shout out to Blackish. I love it, and Grownish now,
which is come along. It's really come on strong.
Yeah. It's a good time.
Speaking of which, you know, going into these shows, Luke Cage
Mm-hmm.
has been that epitome of sort of the blackness on TV, and I feel, this is my opinion, that Black Lightning has kind of just stepped up that expectation of what we should see. Because for as good as Luke Cage was, I think it did have its issues. I think storyline wise. So I'm very interested in seeing season 2, which is coming out. I think in a few months.
June. Chael said it was June.
Okay. With that being said, you had mentioned that you had already watched Jessica Jones.
Yes, I just finished Jessica Jones yesterday, 2 days ago. The weeks start to melt together.
Okay. I haven't seen it, but how was it? How was that?
It's different than the first season. It's more introspective. It's more personal. It's without Luke and without some of the other things, it allows you to focus just on Jessica, and she's a hot mess. But in a very entertaining way. And
although I would just interject, possibly a little bit less of a mess than Trish this season.
Oh yeah, Trish fell apart. She was oh my God.
Right.
Wow. But yeah, so I mean, there's nobody on that show who's not in some form of broken. And you really get to see that. You get to be able to look at people and sympathize and empathize with them and see, okay, I see why you're doing this. And maybe, it's hard to say that there's even a villain this season, if there's a villain this season, it might be society for turning these people into this. But yeah, I was able to enjoy it, but in the same sense that I remember gasping at the Kingpin in Daredevil season 1. I remember, the way we're all talking about coffee after Luke Cage. There's not a lot of quotables here. This is a very introspective series, and it will be taken very differently. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a different thing.
No, I definitely agree with everything you said. I have a thought. I have not completed this season. I believe I'm maybe halfway through. It's definitely enjoyable in certain respects. There are some chances that are taken on storytelling wise, which I think are interesting. I think it's always interesting when writers can take chances. One thing I have issue with up to this point in the season, and I don't know, maybe it's resolved at a later point, is okay. So like Jessica Jones, in the first season, it dealt with the idea that the guys were secondary in a lot of ways. And that's cool. I mean, I feel like obviously with television as a and just American fiction in general, like men center themselves and are centered in so many things. I mean, mostly white men, but just men in general are far more centered than women. So cool. Like that's a good starting point. I think one of the things that gets me is the fact that both Jessica and Trish this season are involved with men of color, and they're equally secondary. So in some ways, I'm almost like, all right, like if you want to have this idea of men being really secondary, like why not do it with men who are not of a marginalized background? You know what I'm saying? Like I guess because it's like I'm cool with the idea of like really focusing on the ladies. But if if your dudes aren't gonna really, I just feel like when you're taking like the men of color, like maybe that's a role that it's gonna sound funny saying that you could have cast a white guy in. It's like let them have their turn to not be the focus of things. And I don't know, it's just like I really dig Malcolm's character. I like the struggles that he's having this season, and the way that he's, as you mentioned, like everyone's broken, and the way that he's trying to become unbroken. You know what I mean? The path that he's on. That being said, it's kind of like some of that secondary status happens with him, and I'm just not sure how I feel about that. I'm not crazy about that.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts.
I was gonna say it's interesting you bring that up because in the Twitter feed at On Jenna, thank you for checking us out, posted this article about how, let me read the thing, how Jessica Jones fails people of color, and which makes some very strong points about what happened to Toussaint wasn't cool, what happened to Sunday was super unnecessary, there's a lot of things that, for women of color and for people of color, that are real sideways in this. I know my friend who goes by at the Son of Baldwin posts a lot about kyriarchy, about how you can be an oppressed class at one point and oppress people on the other. There's different layers and levels of it. So in looking at that, I mean, there's an intersectionality to the struggles that are happening here. And as Andre's outfit said, you know, across cultures, darker people suffer more or are treated worse. And that's clearly on display here, that, you know, the nice guard got killed just as badly as, you know, the messed up guard. That and was it necessary? No. But if you don't have Jamal the intern there to say, hey fam, maybe we should, you know, do something here, or think, which remind I'll tell this real quickly. Larry Hama was on a panel that I hosted once and said that he was at DC Comics and went down to the coloring department and asked why every Asian character was yellow, literally painted yellow in the books. And they said, that's what we've always done. He said, could you not? And they
oh, that answer though, that's what we've always done. You know what though? That is a microcosm of America.
Yeah. Until you bring it up, they don't even realize they're doing something wrong. And that's I believe that there are issues in the writing of this season of Jessica Jones rather, and truthfully a little bit in the previous season that are at play there. And do I like do I like seeing those things? No, but does it? Or let me put it this way: I told you earlier I was from Memphis. If I stopped every time something racist happened, I wouldn't get anything done.
Yep, indeed.
So, you know, I sometimes I'm like, how bad is this? Do I have to really deal with this right now, or can I just move past it and count it as the reign in my life that is regular everyday racism?
Yeah, no, it's the arithmetic of white supremacy. I do it all the time. I think that you know, it is a thing, and by no means am I going to be, you know, picketing outside of you know, Disney about the way that this season was written. It just was apparent to me, and it was a little frustrating. And I also think, just another thing that popped in my head, with Trish going through her hot mess stuff this season, you know, I think obviously we've probably all known people in life who have had issues, addiction, etc., and, you know, they hit their rock bottom. And I feel like her rock bottom, it's like it drags, you know, other characters through the gutter, like you were referencing the story. So it's interesting, man. I think that's what this season is. And I think that's what you're alluding to. There is worthwhile storytelling happening, but at the same time, it's almost like I just want to give a PSA to people of color. There might be some elements that might frustrate you.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, exactly. So,
well, that's good to know. Since I haven't seen it yet, but I did hear about the issue that you were just discussing. So that's part of the reason why I'm just like, maybe I can wait a little bit.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to hear Leo's thoughts, because I know he had strong feelings about the first season. So
yes, he does. Yes, he does. Okay, so I feel like we're at the point where I can ask Star Wars questions.
Let me roll up my sleeves. Let's go.
Roll up your sleeves.
Can I slide one thing in real quick, and then
yes.
And I'll hand it over to you two. Last Jedi was dope. Fight me. Okay, that's it.
Oh, I'm not gonna fight you. I'm not gonna fight you on that.
I will not fight you.
Not you necessarily, just the internet. The internet in their hot takes. All right.
So I don't know if we should talk about. I haven't read any of recent comic books, so I'm not going to really talk about Thrawn. And Thrawn is one of my favorite characters.
You should.
I know I should. I know. And I'll get to it. Have you had a chance to see Star Wars Rebels?
Oh yes, sir. I have completed it.
Oh my God. I think it was an amazing season. I don't think it was the best season, but I definitely think it was an amazing season.
Agreed.
So,
which one would out of curiosity? Which one would you rank first?
Season 2.
Season 2. I was gonna say. I want to say season 2. Okay. Yeah, season 2 was crazy, because I think is that the season where Vader was in?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you're right.
That season was insane.
That season was so crazy from beginning to end. And one of my favorite characters is Darth Maul, which he was a part of it. So that season was crazy. So, what are your thoughts about the future of Ezra Bridger and Thrawn, and how does that really play into, in my opinion, the First Order?
Okay. Up until the last 2 minutes or so of Rebels, I was like, okay, this could work out. I see y'all were doing operations in other parts of the rebellion. I didn't have to see you. This is good. I'm good. I don't have to have all of you people die like I
Right.
did in Rogue One. This is
Right.
cool. I'm good. Okay. And then after the Battle of Endor, first of all, spoiler alert. If you have not seen Rebels, if you've not seen, you should probably stop listening because I'm about to
That's
spoil
correct.
the heck out of this joint.
Yep, let's do it.
All right. So after the Battle of Endor, after Dagobah, after all the struggles Luke had gone through to find anything out about the Jedi, to find anything out about his history, to find anything out about his past, the woman who trained under his father and knew who he was had sat out the entire original trilogy while she got a new outfit and a stick.
Yep.
Screw that noise so hard. I'm so freaking furious about that. So I was enjoying myself, and then I see that, and all of a sudden I'm freaking angry.
Yep.
So, and that's one of the reasons why that detracted from the season as a whole to me, because introducing time travel, sure, whatever. Introducing the Jedi, that's fine. The Force can do all kind of crazy stuff. I get it. I don't mind that. That's all good. But to have the galaxy be on fire for this entire Imperial period, and be somebody who, in that condition, could have taken Vader, because as Vader got older and his machine parts got slower, she could
do a lot of damage. She could have done a lot of damage.
Imagine if instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi facing Vader on the first Death Star, it was Ashoka.
Yep.
He can't keep up with her. He can't keep up with her no more. And the fact that she sat things out while the galaxy burned and all those people died infuriates me. These people that she claimed to love, people that she claimed that were important to her, that she was not there. And I have a problem with that. So leading to that, to Ezra, if all of a sudden hunting down the missing Ezra Bridger is important, and all of a sudden this is what she needs to do, really? So whatever. 5 planets full of people just got blown up. Where are you, Ashoka? What are you even doing? The quest for Ezra feels like one of those when I was playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City and I had to stop and do taxi missions. When I shouldn't, I'm like, don't side mission me. Let me get to the kingpin. Where am I gonna get my house on Star Island? Let's get to that. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm the quest for Ezra Bridger. I'm not very happy about. The idea of Thrawn should be dead, because being exposed to the vacuum, even in hyperspace, for any period of time, should kill you. Thrawn should be dead, and technically Ezra should be dead, based on the fact that their window was cracked open by a space whale.
Yep.
If they're not dead, okay, whatever, shenanigans, I'll call it. I'm not here for it. But yeah, just I want to close off this chapter. Rebels was a thing. I loved Rebels. It was in some cases the best Star Wars that ever Star Wars at multiple points.
Yep.
I was very happy with it.
Yep.
But it's time to close the book and walk away from it. We have other. I'll say it this way: let the past die. Kill it if you have.
Kill it if you must. Yep.
Yep. Which seems to be the theme of The Last Jedi, by the way. So, yes, I agree. I was actually very surprised that she survived. I will say, on a side note, they basically confirmed that Rex was actually at the Battle of Endor, which
they did that a while ago,
which is hilarious. But I think it's very interesting, and I think that they really need to come to terms with her being alive at the same time as Luke Skywalker, and how that affects, and how that affects the First Order in terms of, okay, so you survived all this, and let's say you did sit it out. Let's say you were benched. What role did you play? You know what I mean? And I think that is kind of insane. Personally, I think all the rebels have to have a story linking to them as to where they were when all of this happened. So, okay, Sabine survived. All right, it's fine. That's fine.
She said she stayed on Lothal.
Yeah. Which, okay, all right, fine, whatever.
Yeah, basically.
I don't understand how what's her name, Hera, when she apparently had a kid. I'm like, when? Because I just didn't see that happening. So fine, Hera survived and stuff, but again, you have to come up with reasons as to why you wait until, let's say, the Battle of Jakku, when that's over, for you to go find Ezra. I would have rather you have went after Ezra right then and there to explain your absence.
Well, okay. Hera, I can speak for.
Yeah,
Hera, I can speak for because there's already canonical evidence of what Hera was doing. There's IDW confirmed that Forces of Destiny Hera that they just put out, which put Hera not just on Hoth, but on Hoth hanging out with Han and Leia.
What
happened? Yeah, that's
I gotta read this. I gotta read this.
Wait, can I ask you a question? Not to interrupt, but I am a little confused. Like, how does with rights wise, like, how does the IDW figures? How do they how do the IDW series figure into the canon of Marvel? Yeah.
I don't really, because here's the thing. The canon is administered by the story group, and the story group says yay or nay to this is canon and this is not.
Right.
The story group has passed down certain dictates to both Marvel and IDW as separate license holders. Now, my question was, and I still don't have an adequate answer to this: if you've got Marvel, why are you doing comics with IDW? What's happening?
Yep.
But whatever, that's what's happening, and sometimes I just got to roll with it. I went to, at the time, the top, because I've known Chris Ryall for a lot of years. So I said, Chris, is this canon? Chris said, this is canon. Forces of Destiny is canon. We've been authorized. This is the real deal.
Okay.
So I know for a fact that, and then what's the name? The video game, what's that video game with the Iden Versio, the new the
Battlefront 2, which I love. Go ahead.
There's evidence from that Hera, and also from a different Forces of Destiny book, Hera was on Endor. Hera was at the Battle of Endor, and she flew it. The way that it's easy for Hera, what's the big guy?
Zeb.
Yeah, Zeb. Yeah.
It's a big galaxy and a big rebellion, and there's a lot of places to go kill people.
Of course.
Sure. They could get lost in the shuffle because honestly, they're nowhere near Skywalker. Great, whatever. But at some point, if you're Hera and you know Leia and you know Han, you never thought to say, "Oh wow, Luke's a Jedi for real." I used to know a Jedi. I got pregnant by a Jedi. I got knocked up by a Jedi. You know what? I should. That conversation.
Oh, I did not know that happened.
Yes,
that conversation. I'm not all the way caught up yet. Okay.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. What I was thinking was, okay, so you have this son who is a Jedi. Does that mean that Luke trained him? He's one of the Knights of Ren. Like, what is
good
that?
Question?
You know what I mean?
Like, killed by the Knights of Ren.
Or did he get exact? That's what I'm saying. Like, where is the connection?
These are good questions.
At some point, you're going to have to answer these. You know what I mean? And I look forward to it, but also at the same time, is you need to start being a little bit more realistic. Okay, with that being said, totally understand Darth Maul shouldn't really be alive, but you know what? Whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, just real quick on that though.
I'm good with this story.
That was one of the things about Clone Wars. I feel like in a lot of ways, Clone Wars was low key. Like, yeah, we're gonna fix some of the issues with
definitely
prequels. Like, you know
definitely.
what I mean? He was the single. How does Jar Jar survive the prequels, but Darth Maul is killed in the first movie?
Absolutely. And that's the other thing I will say. I will go on record in saying that the Clone Wars from season 5 on was ridiculous.
Man,
ridiculous. And the fact that I consider it a travesty that they didn't at least have 2 more seasons, because they had a lot more story to tell. But that's
they had to get to Rebels.
Yeah, to get to Rebels, exactly. Yeah. Okay. The Last Jedi. Thoughts?
After going on record multiple times saying that I would rather watch The Phantom Menace twice than see The Force Awakens again, and I stand by that. About 75% of the problems that I had with these characters was fixed in The Last Jedi. Okay. So many things that I was looking at, and on top of that, I got to see, for example, and people have talked about how Canto Blight is a distraction. I disagree. We needed to see that. We needed to see how the other half lived. We needed to know that.
Absolutely.
Or the 1%, as it may be.
And which is also a concept that was as yet unexplored in Star Wars. So.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. They're like, we don't care what the balance of the Force is. We care about the balance of the books. We care about the balance of the bank account.
Right. And I absolutely believe that. I mean, because it's definitely one of those things as you get into Star Wars lore is who is making the money behind all these ships? Who's making the ships? They've never
where are they
discussed
coming
this.
from? Yeah.
And my
The
question is,
Kuat shipyards.
where's the banking clan? Like, did they die in the Clone Wars? And so that means that another clan took over. Very, very interesting.
Palpatine took all their money.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yes, there's a lot of things that were addressed here that I was very happy with.
Mhm.
My biggest appreciation, because as I got older, I remember being a kid and saying, "Yay, Luke Skywalker, I'm a hero," because I came from a nowhere place and I wanted to go somewhere more interesting and live a more interesting life. I related to that. But as I got older, I thought, you know what? Palpatine made the transports run on time. I can't really be mad about that. Yes, the casual racism was a problem. Yes, the murder was a problem. Yeah, I get all that. But
there was order.
There was only one person with slaves on Tatooine by the time A New Hope came around.
That's
it wasn't
right.
everywhere like it used to be.
That's right.
That's not an accident. That's not an accident at all. So, I mean, it's difficult to paint anybody in a specific light in that regard. So, The Last Jedi had Luke embrace that the Jedi were failures, that the Jedi, for all their power, for all their might, for all their wisdom, failed the galaxy multiple times by allowing him to even be born, by allowing his entire life to happen.
Right.
And that he finally took responsibility for it and lived on in the way that only he could, as a myth.
Right.
That's the only way Luke Skywalker could be of any benefit to anybody in the post-First Order era. And that was a hard lesson. I mean, even Mark Hamill said it was a hard lesson to take, but it's true.
Absolutely.
And I think it was an important one to take.
Yep.
I really... the illest moment in the movie to me actually is like, you're nothing, you're nobody except to me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh snap, he laying that space mac on her.
That's right. And you know what's interesting though is that, you know, at that point where he explains to Rey that, you know, the Jedi allows Darth Sidious to come to power because they're so themselves, is that moment where I realized that the prequels were necessary. Because there was no reason we would have gotten to this point if we didn't know, no matter how bad they were, to know that story and then to see The Last Jedi, you begin to realize that it's all come full circle. Definitely.
Yeah. Let me put you up on something. If you get a chance to Google Star Wars ring theory, because George Lucas's the first 6 movies are written in a very specific way to follow this film school thing called ring theory, where the story interlaces and follows certain rhythms in certain ways, and it explains so much of how that story is structured and why things had to happen in certain ways. The prequels, in my mind, showed me that Palpatine was right about one thing: all those people had to die because those people were jerks.
Yeah.
The Naboo, the Gungans, the Senate, the Malastarians, all of those guys, the banking clan, the
Gungans can go.
They all deserve to die. And I don't mourn the passing of the banking clan. I don't mourn the passing of Geonosis. And I'm good with that because these were not people making a better galaxy. These are people who allowed Anakin to be in slavery and turn a blind eye to it. Because the people on Canto Blight, when slavery went away, they were like, we're not trying to put that back. We ain't no problem with that. That's your foolishness over there, player. We over about these space craps. What you got on me?
Right.
So
right. Absolutely. I did have another question. So Snoke, any idea where what the hell he is or who he might be?
Well, I just want to interject. You know, Andy Serkis. This has been a rough movie season for him.
Yeah, I know.
Black Panther and the Last Jedi.
Time's a hard player.
He's getting paid though. He's getting paid.
Yeah, he go cry into his pillow full of money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But honestly,
I actually liked his claw performance, but no, go ahead, Hannibal.
Quite a bit, yeah. Honestly, I think Snoke was my cousin Ray Ray. That's my honest at this point belief. Because if somebody caused a whole bunch of trouble that you ultimately can't find and don't know what to deal with. So ultimately, I think Snoke was cousin Ray Ray. That's my belief. I don't know what anybody else believes in there, but that's my take on it, and that's how I walk through this life.
Makes sense.
Ultimately, who cares who he was?
Well, yeah, and I think that was Rian Johnson's point of departure. It was like,
and I love that Ryan made this movie and says, "Here you go, JJ. Good luck on episode 9 with no Princess Leia, sucker." and walked away.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a lot. Snoke. I mean, like I said, he may as well be Ray Ray. Why not? Why not Ray Ray?
Yeah. I think it was important for it to go down that way. Number one, because in some ways, if he kind of presided over the Last Order throughout 3 movies, it would have been too closely mirroring, Palpatine.
Exactly. Right. Right.
Good point. Good point.
There was a point when I first was watching the movie where I felt all my neurons in my brain firing when Snoke bit the big one, and I was like, "This is this is way different than I thought this was going to be."
Yeah, we're going to make these things.
And did either of you ever because I've seen Return of the Jedi many times since I was a kid, and have either of you ever thought about that prior to Last Jedi, that if Luke when he had used the Force to bring that lightsaber towards him, if he had just turned it 90 degrees, he could have basically.
You're absolutely right. Yeah,
that actually occurred to me as a kid, and it's it actually.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, it paid off.
I will tell you, I've never considered Luke Skywalker the smartest of the Jedi.
That part.
That part. I think he was too much in his feelings to actually think straight. Now imagine if he actually thought straight, if he actually had a father growing up, Luke Skywalker would be unstoppable, but he gets into his feelings too much. I think that's how I look at it.
I agree. And I actually have, in addition to that, right, I think that there is, it was not by accident that Kylo Ren was the one who made that work in that scenario. Because if you look at it, Rey grabbed her lightsaber at least 2 times, but and in throughout their Force conversations and just their interactions in the movie, one of the things I thought was really interesting is that there is this connection, but there's this disconnect in the sense that Rey was seeing seeing him and his path and her visions of the future through her lens on the light side. She just didn't conceive. So she said, "I know you'll turn on him," and in her mind, him turning obviously meant he was going to be a good guy, which clearly wasn't the case, and it never was to be.
We'll see.
So,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, but definitely not in this movie.
No.
And so I think that it's interesting because it's to Rey and Luke Skywalker, young Luke Skywalker, the idea of oh, let me grab this sword and cut him in half at the same time just wouldn't even occur to them from their point of view.
Absolutely.
They're also not killers.
Right, exactly. Right. And Kylo Ren, from his perspective, it's that's almost like the obvious choice from his perspective.
Because he knew he's I can see he will turn his sword on his enemy. He's yeah, so I'm gonna turn it on his enemy. I'm turning it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my points about walking away from this movie is that Kylo Ren was able to do the one thing Vader couldn't do, which was rule the galaxy.
Yes.
At this point, as far as we know, going into the next movie, he basically rules the galaxy.
Do you know what he did? He finished what he started.
There you go.
True.
He finished what he
started.
In two movies.
In 2 movies.
Way to be efficient, Kylo. Respect.
Much respect. And and I laugh because he got a lot of disrespect as a character from
me too.
Right. But he really came out at this movie, and yes, he took off the ridiculous mask and it was on.
That was the problem.
Yeah. So, woo! Love talking about Star Wars. We are reaching that 11 o'clock hour here on the East Coast. So we should probably head out. But I have one final Star Wars question before we go.
Come on.
One of the things that my fiance loves to point out is that at the end of the movie, when Luke Skywalker did his whole, I'm not really here, I'm in the astral plane or whatever the hell it is. Did you know that going into it when he walked into that he wasn't really there, or did you have any suspicions on that?
I had a suspicion, but it wasn't based on any factual data. My first thought, and this is, as a dude who, as you see, hasn't had a haircut in about 3 weeks. I'm like, he was clean. He stopped to dye his hair?
Yes, right. That's what I'm saying. He had just for men.
That's weird. Oh, yeah. I guess. you're gonna go see your sister and you're gonna go kill your nephew. I guess that's what you're gonna do. Sure, whatever. And people have told me that on the rewatches you can see it. He doesn't have a shadow.
Right, he doesn't have a shadow. He doesn't leave footprints.
Yeah, the only really hard to understand thing is the thing with the dice. And Leia, you can see Leia says she's like, this
She
ain't right.
realized, yeah,
Something ain't
Luke
right
doesn't
here.
have a shadow, at least.
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's a lot of actual visual clues in the movie to show that Luke is not even remotely there.
Right.
But
Wow.
on your first time watching it, you're so like you're tripping over. Oh my God,
Exactly.
the Gorilla Walkers and Luke is about you. And when he does that little flick off the shoulder, you too busy trying to see how hard this dude stunned on you to be able to recognize that sort of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's no little red footsteps when he walks either.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot.
Oh man, you are blowing my mind right now. I'm gonna have to watch this after we're done.
People pointed this stuff out to me. I'm not a G.
No, the second
time
that much of a genius. It jumps out.
Yeah, because you're looking for like you're able to get a lot more on the second and subsequent viewings of it, and yeah, I mean it's a really deep movie, and the best part about it, it brought back the tradition of quotes, because a lot of Star Wars movies, if you ain't got no quotes in your Star Wars movie, you're not really stunting on them.
Yep.
And there's so many quotes. It's like, could we not do this now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes, so do I. Oh, I want to say thank you before we go into our closing remarks. Thank you for coming on the show. We're definitely gonna have to bring you on again.
I would do this anytime. I love this. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a verbal contract. We will definitely have you back.
Exactly. So
I also want to give props to Aunt Jenna for saying so much. Aunt Jenna has been all the way through this chat all night, and she's been hilarious. I followed her, so thank you.
She's one of our favorite people. She's definitely one of our favorite people.
Actually, if I could, real quick, Tony, I just want to give a shout out to Onyena for she's put on a show in New York at the Medallia Gallery, and it's just it's an awesome show. What is it? Panels for Change, I believe, is the title of the show, and myself and my wife are both part of the exhibit, but Ashley Woods, a lot of our favorite creators and people that we've had on the show and spoke to are part of it. So definitely, if you're in the city, just check out Onyena's page, Carbon Fiber Media, any of those accounts, and you can learn more about the show and check it out.
Yeah,
I'll pronounce her name right from now on. I'll pronounce it right.
And if she wants to just retweet all that information, we'll definitely boost it on our end. Okay, so Hannibal, where in the world of social media can people find you?
I'm gonna make it real easy for you. On Twitter, on Tumblr, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Plurk if you go back that far, on MySpace if you can find it, on Friendster if you're looking for it. It's always going to be Hannibal Tabu. One word, HANNI, B as in bounce, AL, T as in tough, A, B as in bounce, U. I've had to keep it consistent, not just for everybody else, but also so I can find it.
Awesome. And Marcus, where can people find you?
Just marcuskwame.com. I got some new things happening, so check me out.
Okay, you want to talk just a little bit? What are your new things?
Well, right now I've been speaking recently about how I'm both finishing up Snow Days issue 2. It's been a long time coming, soon come. It's my Jamaican blood. But also I'm working hard on Cash and Carry book 2 on 60 pages of story for Cash and Carry book 2. So nice. I'm gonna be maybe a little quieter on the internet, but I will try to pop up, pretty regularly.
Right. So now that you have me knowing how to actually run this podcast, maybe I can take some time away so you can do what you do best.
Oh yeah, I got my window seat.
Nice. As for me, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Tumblr that I don't really use. Facebook as Latin Negro. You might want to check out Puerto Rico Strong, which came out in comic book stores this past Wednesday. I'm so glad to be a part of this project. It's right now, I believe it's below 1,000, or rather, books that were sold this week. So I think it sits at 990 or something, the top books. So hopefully that number will increase. It goes out on bookstores next week. And for those who were kind of worried about Amazon delaying a lot of the deliveries, some people have gotten their book today. Some people will get their book tomorrow. Others will get it next week. So I think that Amazon is trying to catch up with the demand of this book. So please, get out there, read it. Remember, all the proceeds go to charity. Lion Forge just announced that they are working with the United Way to make sure that those monies go directly to people in Puerto Rico. So check that out. All right, good people. It's been a blast. Thank you again, Hannibal. I laughed a lot. I actually spit out my water. Thank you. We will catch you on the flip side. Have a good night.
I'll be there. All right,
everyone. Peace.